Hi, I'm Sam.
I'm Aaron.
And this is Maine and Local.
This is a new video podcast featuring local news and events right here in Ohio County.
Today we'll discuss what Maine and Local is all about and what it means to you, and we'll also talk about the upcoming school year during the coronavirus pandemic.
All right, so let's discuss what Maine and Local is.
Maine and Local is a partnership with the Ohio County Monitor, and it's a program that features local news and events, and we will also have discussion about those.
And we'll also have audience interaction. We'll let you all actually help us out here.
Speaking of which, the OC Monitor had a poll set up at Facebook.
Yes.
About the mask situation.
Yes, again, as we know, there's a statewide mask mandate out.
Yes.
And OC Monitor put up a poll that, do you wear a mask when you go out?
And some pretty surprising results, as a matter
Yes,
of fact.
it was 81 to 19 in favor of wearing masks.
And to hear people talk about the mask situation, I wouldn't have expected those.
I wouldn't have expected it either. And again, the comments were, I'm doing this for my relatives. I'm doing it for myself. I'm doing it for just to keep everybody safe. And the people that said no, they just said no. They didn't give us any kind of reason for it.
They didn't want to elaborate. I think a lot more people are taking this seriously again as we're looking at, the rates are rising. It's just every day.
It's just, it's really important right now. And again, just bear with us. We're doing this and we'll get these issues out. And we plan to we hope to bring you an episode every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. And we encourage audience interaction as well.
Absolutely. And again, we'll make this again for you.
Right, which is what this is all about. And we'll do that through social media. We're set up on Facebook.
Yes.
Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube is
where you're at right now.
Right,
so.
For some local news, Mitch McConnell recently visited Rochester Dam.
Yes, he did, and also Congressman Brett Guthrie. They actually work together a lot in Washington. And again, this funding was provided for the Rochester Dam, which I did not know provides water for 50,000 people in and around Ohio County.
I didn't realize that either.
And also 20,000 jobs.
20,000 jobs.
Yeah.
So that's major. And they were there there were a lot of improvements that needed to be made for quite some time now.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact.
Absolutely.
This was a long time coming, and they were there for.
And you can read about Senator McConnell's visit at the OC Monitor and also see the video of that visit.
In other news, longtime high school teacher Arthur Hale has retired from
County
High School.
Wow.
Yeah, after 54 years, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, he taught there all but the first year the school opened.
First year. And, he said that he felt he could do another 50 years.
He sure could, but due to the coronavirus, his wife has had some heart problems, so I don't want to risk it. Yeah, she's retired as well. She was my chemistry teacher, actually. I didn't get to have Mr. Hale, but
I did have Mr. Hale. I remember him when I was in school. But that's really telling when something like this shows how serious corona
absolutely
is.
And I mean, again, they're older people, obviously, but yes, and I mean, he would have stuck around if he could. Absolutely,
right. And here's what Mr. Hale had to say. I still call him Mr. Hale,
Yeah.
But here's what he had to say at the recent school board meeting.
Anyway, I told these people before y'all got here, I'm ready to go 50 more. Y'all think I'm kidding you. I feel like I could do 50 more. But my creator and your creator decided it was my time to quit. Because I can't afford to go to school and take this thing home and kill my wife. I love her as much as I do my kids. And I love them to the end of the world. I've always thought that the least they could give me was their best, and I had to do the same. That's all I ever expected out of any of them was the best they could do. In fact, I know a young lady that went to the first grade, and her first grade card come home. All U's but one. And that was an S, and gets along well. But I thought, sure, she did. She's partying with them. But anyway, I can see it a Friday now. She came into our house, and her room was over here, and mine was over here, and she showed me her grade card. So, I looked at her, and I'm really convinced that I could have messed her life up forever right there. Because if I'd have raised a fuss that time, she probably turned into a rebel. The next grade card I got was all S's. I never saw anything but straight A's from that day on, anywhere. So you know what I told her? I looked at it. I said, honey, if that's the best you can do, we'll have to live with it. And I meant it. I meant that for your kids too. If that was the best they can do, I had to live with it. And that's all I ever asked your kids, was to do the best they can. And I never tried to make them chemists or anything else. I just asked them to do the best they can. But before I get crazy here, I want to thank all of you. You can't take a jackass and feed it bluegrass and have it win the Kentucky Derby. Okay? Now, to be a good teacher, you got to have good kids. Now, I'm not talking about ones that are angels or none like that. I'm talking about ones that are willing to accept instruction. Ones that are willing to do that. And I'm sincere that there's no good teacher that ain't got better kids. I appreciate all of them. I love them to death. Every one of them. On the radio today, the guy asked me, said, who was the worst student you ever had? I never had one. I never had a worst student. They were all good. Just some of them better than others. Got it? I understand that. But let me tell you what. I think I've been good for Ohio County High School and Ohio County schools. But let me tell you something else. Ohio County's been good to me. Ohio County has done well by me, and I appreciate it. I appreciate the boards and the superintendents and all the people I've outlasted. I mean, I get to look at Ohio County High School, and the list of coaches that I've been through and principals, it's amazing. It's really amazing. Huh?
I said that is so true.
And it is. And I got to thinking, well, I outlived another. But I do. I want to thank all of you. Y'all do a good job. You don't get enough credit. Y'all don't get near enough credit for the job you do, and I appreciate it. Thank you. You too, son.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
All right, on to the school board meeting and Superintendent Seth Southard and all that we're dealing with COVID-19 for possibly what plans we have, possible plans for the school year ahead.
Right, they have some tentative plans. They still want to open school August 26th.
August 26th is the date they're aiming for.
As of right now.
As of right now. And they probably will decide, maybe even before you see us again, maybe not, but what that final plan will be. And again, the options are in person, which is traditional. That's what he actually said. A lot of people want to do in school. So that's the obvious option.
A lot of people in a perfect ideal setting, that's what we would do. But,
right.
You know, not necessarily, we're not in the perfect ideal
right.
setting at all.
And we would do maybe part of what we did when school shut down, and that would be a virtual online class. They have a software called Odyssey-ware. I think that's through Google. And so that's the second option. And that's actually for, it's for the high school mostly, but it can be used for any grade. So that's our second option.
Right, and the third option is something that they attempted last school season, NTI.
Yeah.
And for those not familiar with that, that would be the packets, right?
The packets that you picked up, which this was all done on the fly back in March. They had to get a lot of work out because it didn't even determine whether they go back to school or not. But it ended up being, rest of the school year, everything was gone. So they sent them home with all this homework to do in their own time if they wanted. Right. But this time they're going to have they're going to have it divided up. They're not going to have it, here it is, you got to do all this. So
they've had a little time
to study it. Yeah, right.
And, so the in-person option, Aaron,
right,
is going to be it's going to be the new normal. It's not going to be like it used to be.
No.
But there are procedures that the students will have to follow. Face masks.
Masks, Absolutely.
And there are some concerned parents out there about their child wearing a mask for, certain hours of the day
Right.
or even the entire day.
Yeah.
And getting through that. Also, some of the other concerns are, when it comes to lunchtime, eating in the classroom.
Right.
You know.
Well, they have to bring their lunch.
Right.
That may even be your safest option, just have your own lunch, but then where and when are we going to go to lunch?
Right, and that's going to be another part of the day. Staying in the classroom for, they've talked about the teachers would be the ones leaving the room while
Yeah.
the students stay
Right.
inside. Mm-hmm. One of the things that broke up, I don't want to say monotony, but, getting to leave the room.
Getting to leave the room for recess. Recess, I'm assuming, is out of the question.
I would think
Somewhat.
so.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
And, just to have, just to mix things up a little, just to move around, and that's going to be difficult.
And keeping your hands clean. Our board they have ordered 1,200 gallons of hand sanitizer. Every classroom in this county is going to have hand sanitizer to make sure that everybody uses it.
Yes, and there will be procedures on that, and that's just it's going to be part of, like we said, the
New normal.
Right.
Absolutely.
The second option, which would be online.
That's the Odyssey Wear program. And again, that's you can take an entire course using the software.
Right, and the county's going to make that available.
Make that available. They're going to make internet available.
Right.
They're also going to make a device available if a student needs a device.
But that's running into a tricky situation because you have you're going to be taking the kids out of that classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that was the only interaction.
That they had with, well, just other kids.
Right.
Basically.
Right. And some parents might not find that feasible for
Sure.
their child. So
Especially if there's parents that have to work.
right.
How are they going to be here to help with that home teacher situation that everybody tackled for the past 4 months?
Yeah.
So-
and then they offer the next option, NIT.
Yeah.
NTI.
NTI, non-traditional instruction. And again, that's the instruction that you got. Just, again, those are NTI days. A lot of what some people may not know is even before coronavirus, when there were snow days,
Right.
school systems used NTI days. So this is a grander experiment rather than, we got snowed out today, but we still have to do our schoolwork.
Bit
This
of a
is a
crash
little
course experience. There.
Absolutely, yeah.
And NTI will that'll only be offered if the parents would not do the in-person.
Right. That's if they decide to stay home.
Right. And then that brings up the next question about sports. Because it says Southern. Was
Sports is kind of a tricky question at this point because if you're in school, sure, you can play sports. But what if you're out of school? Will you
Right.
still be able to participate in those activities?
And you can find out more and actually see.
See parts of that meeting.
Yes, at ocmonitor.com.
So in summary, kids are going to have to mask up. Also, buses. What's that going to look like? That's a bunch of kids together that won't be social distance unless they count down, or I should say, cut back capacity on buses, which is possible.
Correct. That is possible too. Of course, there would be more buses out there. They've had a heck of a time keeping bus drivers before, so
Right.
this is going to be.
And will
whole
you
other-
have even that additional bus monitor? I don't know if we have a lot. Do we have a lot of bus monitors here? I think we have
I think
quite
we
a
do,
few.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So that's going to be another thing.
You could
right
probably
there.
use that person to help, obviously,
Right.
with outside of
With
what they
with the
normally do.
distancing, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Temperature checks. I would
Temperature
presume at the
checks,
schools.
yes.
For those who
School,
do
maybe
attend.
even before you get on the bus.
Probably so.
You have your monitor do that, probably.
Yes, they could do that.
They ordered several thermometers, too.
They have
From
done
what I
that,
understand,
okay,
they ordered
so
a lot of
along with the hand
those.
sanitizer.
Yeah.
Then you have the, what happens, the situation if a student or teacher gets sick.
Yeah.
Does the whole class quarantine, for
Right.
example?
Or do we get to the point where we were on March 13th? We shut it down. And we can shut it down. We don't need approval from the state to shut it down. If we see cases, if we see a lot of people out, we'll have to shut the school down.
Pretty much the same
Possibly,
protocol
yeah.
as when there was, flu. When we
Right.
just had the old flu.
Flu happens, yeah, and we didn't even get the flu days. I guess this year it was all due to COVID.
Right. Recess, I would think. something
Recess
like that
will
is
have
out
to
the
be
window.
creative.
Yeah, kind of like cafeteria time.
Cafeteria.
Which, like I said, would be in a gym in some
Yeah, and
instances.
that's again when your kids socializes, recess and gym.
Right. And more of the positive tests are coming back for the kids, and we're hearing that the teens and preteens can also spread the virus. So this is a whole other situation when the kids that do go to school go home for the day, living with parents, grandparents.
They may live with grandparents.
Right.
They may live with another relative who has even other children from another family. And again, that's something, or they pick up the kids after school, keep the kids while the parents are at work.
Right.
That's also an option. So again, one person gets this, they could spread it to at least what we know from 2 or 3 people if they're asymptomatic. So that's something to consider, is that that's unknown at this point.
So bottom line, at the school year, the upcoming school year, it is up in the air, and I'm sure many more things will change before we get to August 26th.
Absolutely. Here's what we know as of now. We have in-person traditional school.
Right.
And so what do we need to know about that?
Masks. Masks will be worn at all times, unless you can socially distance. But any time that you would get up from your seats, you would have a mask on.
And we said sharpen pencil.
Sharpen
You'd have to
pencil.
do
You
that.
would have to
Absolutely.
do
If you
that.
want to go up to the desk, can I go to the
Show off
bathroom?
your new outfit, yes.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
you would have to put on the mask.
Put on the mask.
And if you were in a room, if there were enough students there, you might wear that mask throughout class, depending on how many students are in the room.
That's the option.
The hand sanitizer will be provided.
Hand sanitizer will be there. And again, our second option, virtual or online.
And yes, Odyssey Wear is the software that they're using.
Right.
And if you if you do not have a computer or internet access,
School board will provide that.
they will provide that for you. The third option, NTI, which again they started.
NTI is
this past year.
just a bunch of packets and lessons that you take home. You do them like regular homework.
But if you do that, you may not be able to partake in the extracurricular activities.
Right.
It just depends. And everything
Again, up in the air.
up in the air.
Exactly. All right, so we want to know your thoughts on all of this. What option are you in favor of? Is there other concerns that you have? Which, again, we mentioned that some students may live with grandparents, or they go to a grandparent's house after school, or maybe the grandparents take them to school. I mean, it's all those options.
That goes back with the how they're going to get to school, the transportation.
Exactly.
They won't take a bus, and it's all, a lot of it's going to depend on the number of people, I think, that decide whether to do NTI or in school or
exactly.
online. So there you have it, the first episode of Maine and Local.
All right, and for more details on everything we talked about, the videos that also cover these subjects, you can subscribe. Go to the OC Monitor, ocmonitor.com. You can read all those in-depth articles.
And we encourage you to like and subscribe to Maine and Local. And we want to hear back from you, any kind of feedback.
Any comments about school, all of it.
Right.
Absolutely. We'll say something about Mr. Hale.
Yes, if you
Go
remember
ahead.
any memories you have of Mr. Hale when you were in school.
Because, I mean, he was, Check us out on social media, Facebook and YouTube. Just search for Maine and Local Pod.
Right.
And you'll find us, and we'll be back soon.
We'll see you next time.